Kim, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
It's also good.
That's good.
Erica took the boys to Frankie's this afternoon, so I'm here by myself, which is awesome. Just
That
cleaning the
is nice.
house and doing some stuff. So
Yes.
yeah,
That's
but
good.
we've both seen the movie Megan now, and
Yes.
Megan has an abbreviation, and I can't remember what it is. Do you remember what the abbreviation is from the movie? Because it stands for some kind of Android like nomenclature thing, and I can't remember, like third
Uh,
gen.
yeah, I do. It is, I think it is third gen. I don't know what the ME is supposed to stand for.
Well, and it's funny because I went to IMDb and I was just looking at some stuff earlier, and I guess the way they spell the title officially is M3GAN. I guess because like it's third gen,
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yes. Now I can't remember what it is, but yes.
but as weird as it is to say this, I kind of have an affinity for like killer doll type movies, like killer, like Child's Play, And I haven't actually. I say that, but then like beyond The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, I haven't watched a ton of the Annabelle movies, which is probably more of a killer
No. Well,
doll
and
thing. But
here's where I would argue there's a difference, which is why I didn't really want to see Megan at first. And I'm really glad that I did. Like, obviously, I love Child's Play and I do enjoy a good killer doll. However, I mean, I guess Child's Play, he is possessed, but he's possessed by like a person. I was never interested in the Annabelle stories because I don't really like ghost possession.
yeah,
So, and
yeah,
that's where,
and
and Megan is a robot. Like that's just straight up. She's a robot, but that's where the trailers made her look sort of possessed, and that's just not my jam.
yeah, and so the original Child's Play, like
Yes. Yes.
1986 ish, whatever it was, maybe a little bit later than that, maybe it was 88. So obviously in that movie, Chucky is possessed by the soul of Charles Lee Ray, who was a serial killer. And I've seen all those movies. I really actually like those movies. So do you like the Child's Play movie, even though that's not?
Yes.
I mean, that's like possession
No,
technically, I
I
guess,
love
right?
Child's Play. I saw Child's Play when I was 3 years old, and then my dad went out and bought the Chucky doll and hid under my bed. So if that says
That
anything
is.
about why I am the way I am.
Did that have a
And I
lasting
will
impact on you at all? I mean, did that stick with you?
I mean, I would say ask my therapist. But and even like my grandmother like gifted us porcelain dolls when she died. Like that's what she collected. And for years I like kept it in a closet because I'm like, no, no, thank you.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't
have to
want
see if
your
I can find a
possessed doll.
picture. So I have an aunt who lives in Maryland. Super nice. I mean, she's a great person. We go up there when we go to see family. So we have a lot of family in the DC area. But in one of her guest bedrooms, she has this porcelain doll, like from the 40s, sitting in this high chair, and it just stares. And so when we go up there, and Jonah has to stay in that room, he freaks out every time. And I remember the
Yeah.
first time we were there, and Jonah was old enough to realize like what was going on. He was sleeping in this room, and he's like, what am I going to do if it comes to life? I'm like, just pull the covers over your head. If you don't make eye contact, everything will be okay. Which is probably not the best way for me to approach
Well,
that.
I would have said it won't come to life. That's probably the direction I would have gone in. But strategy is also just cover your eyes. Just don't make
when
eye contact.
when I'm editing this after the fact, I'm gonna have to see if I can find a picture of this because I took a picture when I was up there and I've got it somewhere and I could just like splice it right into the middle of this
Yes.
conversation, which will be great.
Do that. But I do. I love Child's Play, and I love Child's Play 2, and I love Child's Play 3. Like I really enjoy all of them. I've seen there's maybe one or two I have not seen. I've not seen the Seed of Chucky,
It's
and
terrible. You're not missing anything with that one.
I haven't seen another one. But then I saw like the most recent, but then not the reboot. I have not seen the
Right.
reboot.
So that's what I was, and I know we were kind of talking about this, just texting or whatever. Like this movie to me has a lot in common with the Child's Play reboot. Like I don't think so much that it's like legit ripping it off or anything like that, but
Right.
and I think this is a better movie than that. I'll just say up front. Even though I like the Child's Play reboot,
I would
it
hope
does.
so.
Yeah, I mean, and that one's got like Mark Hamill doing the voice, which I appreciate, because he's a really good voice actor and all that. But yeah, this is better. And I guess before we dig into the plot, one thing that was kind of a conversation surrounding this that I thought was sort of interesting going into it, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit, is the fact that it's rated PG-13. And some people were like, "Oh, a
Yeah.
PG-13 horror movie like doesn't really carry any clout with it," and I would disagree with that. But like, what was kind of your take on that?
I was shocked to see that it was PG-13. But I will say, like, that didn't hurt it in any way for me because I feel like overall what the movie did worked. And I feel like if there had been anything that maybe pushed that R rating boundary, it wouldn't have been as effective. And I was looking at the trivia on IMDb, and apparently the writer of the movie said that the original script is R rated. And she
Still
hopes
like
one
super
day
gory, maybe.
yeah, and she hopes one day they can release like what that was really supposed to look like. But I think it's interesting. I would be curious why they went with the PG-13, and is it because of the message of the movie? Like, if you get more of that younger audience in, are you going to get more of the people that maybe are addicted to like screens and technology, which is basically what the movie's about?
Yeah, so that's I mean, we were again when we were texting about this beforehand, my takeaway from it was that it's like a 2-hour long argument for limiting a child's screen time, essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically
And
what it is.
basically, parents should feel bad. You are a bad parent. Like, cause like there's like the psychologist, and there's all these conversations that come out and say like, what's gonna happen when you take it away? Oh, see, your kid's acting crazy. Yeah, that's your fault. And
Right.
so it's like,
And I mean, it happens in the movie. Like, there's a point where, the child, well, I guess I should talk about the plot because we haven't even really gotten into that yet before I go too deeply into this. So, and just again, if I miss anything, just jump in and correct me. So, in a nutshell, the plot is there's a child, and I cannot remember the child's name. That's terrible. The character's name. I could probably
Katie,
totally
it's
look it up.
Katie,
Katie.
it's
Katie. Okay.
Katie, because
Katie.
it's
So,
spelled different than normal Katie, and that's why I remembered it. It's Katie.
okay. So Katie, at the beginning of this film, is traveling with her parents to go on like a skiing vacation, and they get trapped in a whiteout blizzard. The parents stop in the middle of the road because they're arguing about whether or not the car can handle it. The car gets decimated by a snowplow. So both the parents are killed. Katie then has to go live with her aunt, who works at a toy company. And it's called Funky. Is that right? Funky, something.
Yeah,
It's almost
I
like
think it's like funky or something like that.
they,
Yeah,
they make like the movies version of Furbies that are more
yeah,
intelligent, I guess. But her aunt has been working on a prototype of a doll that basically, I mean, it's funny how they market it and talk about it in the movie as sort of leaps and bounds, ahead for toys and what people are going to want, when it's really like leaps and bounds ahead for just artificial intelligence in general. I mean, it's
yeah.
like beyond just being a toy. It's something that will completely change the
Yeah,
world.
well, that was what I was kind of like, okay, like, yes, I get that this is beyond a toy. This would then go beyond anything that we currently have in existence. I think the government is probably going to want to co-opt this for some military purpose. And then they would
Right.
make Megan Bloody Megan, the sequel, where that technology goes crazy and starts killing people on the holidays.
So is this where you were talking about some connections between Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and this
Well, I
potentially?
just think it's funny that we've unintentionally had this theme of killer robots in the movies we've been reviewing. And I will say, having seen that recently, I was in a lot, like in the final battle scenes. I know we'll talk about it. I'm like, please don't draw this out like Christmas Bloody Christmas, because
Right.
I just can't take, like, let's just be realistic about what's happening. And I do think they did that very well. It still has a lot of similarities that I just think any movie with a killer robot is going to have, where they slowly start to lose their human form. And it's
Right.
straight up like, yes, I am battling a droid. Okay, cool. I know this.
And I was at the end of this movie, I was sort of expecting like the Terminator again, like basically
Yeah.
what we got with Christmas Bloody Christmas, where the skin comes off, it's ripped in half, like all that kind of stuff. But so anyway, going back to the plot, Katie is staying with her aunt. Her aunt's working on this prototype. She's got another assignment she's supposed to be working on, but she's more focused on this because that's kind of her passion project. She gets it to a point where it's, I guess, operational. The company sees how much value is probably in this thing, and then she goes sort of full into developing that. All the while, she brings it home to help Katie cope with her situation. And so they're making a connection. The doll and Katie are, I say the doll, the droid and Katie are. And there's a model set up within, I guess, sort of the CPU of this thing where it's learning. So the more it interacts with people, the more it learns, the more intelligent it becomes, sort of exponentially becoming essentially a human, for more or less, lack of a better description. But there's a lot of, sort of external stuff happening, right? There's sort of this long running and long simmering tiff with her neighbor who's got a dog who won't stay off of her property.
Yes.
And so the plot kind of uses that to show how Megan is starting to interpret things, as in, well, if this dog is going to be a problem and gets a little bit aggressive toward Katie, and my job is to protect Katie, then
like,
I
if
need
my
to take out the dog.
directive, yes. And that's where I don't have an issue with that particular plot point, that like her directive, and that's why she has to bring her home, is because in order to demonstrate, she has to pair with a child. And so they pair it with Katie, and now she can fully interact. And so like her directive is to protect her. So I don't have an issue with that. I'm sure we'll talk about, I think it's sometimes that directive gets grossly misinterpreted without real sort of like motivation. Like I think, you know, there are times where she can easily protect Katie without killing someone, but that's the direction she decides to go in.
I agree. I mean, I wouldn't say there's ever a point of this movie where it quote unquote like jumps the shark and becomes like, whoa, this is way out of left field sort of
No,
stuff.
no.
But I feel like there was a point where Katie is going to this new school to try and help her learn, and this kid is
Yeah.
just being like, and you know, kids can be terrible. Like they can be terrible to each other. They can be bullies, but it's a little bit exaggerated. But that's what you get in movies, I think, sometimes to the point of like, you know, M3GAN deciding that, you know, I need to rip this kid's ear off and chase him. And I guess technically she doesn't kill him in that scene, but
That's
the
true. That's
things that she
true.
does leads to his death, really, right?
Well, and like that's the scene that they show in the trailer is her in the woods chasing this boy. I think that was, I would guess, like the scene they wanted to use to bring people in because it's one of the more unnerving scenes without giving too much
Well,
away.
she's running
But
like a dog, kind of.
yeah, and that's where I really started to think about Christmas Bloody Christmas, because my big issue with that movie was like, I get that you have a defective robot, but what is causing him to be violent in this moment? What's the trigger? I didn't feel like there was a trigger in that moment that would cause her to want to kill somebody. I mean, and she's aiming to kill here, whether she actually does it or not. But then to like move like that, I don't. To me, that was like the choice. Like, let's make this scary, and
Right.
like, which is separate from this is part of the world, and that took me out of the world, and I didn't love that part.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, like I did not expect when I was watching it in theaters, and this is probably just naivety on my part, but I was not expecting that kid to die. Like I just sort of
Oh,
thought
I was.
like, oh, he's gonna go back and his ear's messed up, and they're gonna be like, "What did you do,
No
Katie? Like
way.
somehow you had
Because he's
something
a
to do with this."
witness. He's a
Yeah,
witness. Witnesses die. You cannot stay alive if you've seen her in action. Like
this is
that.
why you're a screenwriter and I'm not.
Yes.
This is what you know. That's
Yes.
why you're good at this.
Yes.
So things continue to snowball. The police are slowly getting a little bit suspicious, right? Because the dog next door has gone missing, and then eventually M3GAN decides that the owner of the dog, the next door neighbor, is a problem in and of
Yes.
herself, and so she decides to get rid of her with a pressure washer with chemicals or something like that, right? That was a little
Yes.
bit of a weird kill scene, but because I mean, she hits her with the pressure washer once, and it literally blows her across the shed. I mean, it would hurt for sure, but that was a
Yeah.
little bit, you know,
Yeah.
but
And yeah, yes, and that's where I'm like, okay, I understand that she's evolving, and I will say I didn't even mind that as much as the wood scene. The wood scene was probably my, well, not my biggest gripe. I have one other scene that's my actual biggest gripe,
I'm curious about
but
this. Okay.
I guess like for me, you say the police are getting suspicious. There's that whole scene where that police officer is like, "Oh yeah, your neighbor's dead. Oh yeah, and that boy died. We didn't really seem to make a connection about that. Okay, well, let us know if you think of anything." And then he like takes off and he laughs and then he apologizes for laughing. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
mean, quirky, funny moment. I don't mind it, but also like, really? Okay.
See, and I took that as he was trying to play it cool as if, like, yeah, of course he's making a connection, but he's not going to let on to that yet. And he doesn't want to freak out this person who's a suspect. But I could have, because I mean, I guess he doesn't come back, right? Like that. He doesn't
Right.
at that point. So I don't
I
know.
don't think they
I don't know. That
seem
was
that concerned.
so okay. So again, things keep evolving, and this company keeps getting more and more excited about what they've got as
Yes.
far as a product is concerned with M3GAN, to the point of they were going to have this big sort of publicity thing happen where they're going to stream sort of the reveal of M3GAN, and so
Yeah.
everybody's coming into the headquarters, and that's where things get a little bit even more haywire, where they've got M3GAN there, and at this point, the aunt, and what is the aunt's name? Why can't I remember these
Oh,
names?
now I can't remember her name.
I'm gonna IMDb it real quick because I can
Okay.
totally remember
I
that. But anyway,
remembered the girl's name was Katie.
yeah. But anyway, so they go to the headquarters. I've got it pulled up now.
Well,
Gemma.
and at this point,
Gemma.
the aunt has like pretty much, yes, has pretty much realized like this is not, she suspects M3GAN. And she
Right.
asks her, like, she sort of asks her if she did it. And then she like knows. And so she's trying to like kind of separate the girl and M3GAN because she definitely knows something's wrong.
Well, and if I'm remembering correctly, she basically had her wrapped up in duct tape and bubble wrap
Oh
and
my
like
gosh,
took,
yes.
took her to the building. And basically, her and her two colleagues who she's working really closely with are like, okay, we're going to decommission this thing, even
Yeah.
though it's going to mean our jobs probably because this big thing is about to happen for the reveal for Megan and this toy line. But it doesn't matter. I mean, this is a murdering doll, so we
Yes.
have to stop.
Yes.
So they get Megan in a position where they're going to put her out of her
Pull
operational
the
status, I
plug.
guess. You pull the plug, right?
Yeah.
But of course, one of the guys gets a little too cute when he's trying to unhook everything and sort of turn her off. And Megan goes crazy, wraps a wire around his neck, basically tries to hang him, gets out of the
Yes.
room, and it sort of goes from there. And I did like the scene where she rips the paper cutter blade off of the thing and goes into the elevator. Did you not? Were you not feeling that the whole
That was my
dance?
biggest gripe. That
Was
was
that your
the
biggest
scene that
gripe?
I'm like, because now she's moved past her directive of
Hmm.
like nothing about that directly related to protecting Katie or be like they weren't stopping her. They were like, "Ooh, let me get out of the way of this very crazy looking doll droid." And
Right.
then she very messily murdered not just one but two people.
And I mean, there was a little bit of comedy there where, is it David, the boss, whoever it is, he's walking down the corridor and sees her and he's like, oh no. Like, I mean, he kind of realizes like
Yeah.
what's about to happen. And, she
Yeah.
chases him down. But then there's another, and this, okay, so this was my gripe, actually. And this kind of ties into maybe what you were saying. But there's another employee who's basically stealing company secrets. Like, there's
Yes.
this whole kind of subplot where you think he's going to like put this online or he's going to sell it to somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
But nothing ever really happens with that. And I mean, I
No,
guess,
and she brings it up right before she kills him, which I'm like, is that do they think that they've brought it back because of that? But like I agree that it felt like it was gonna be a bigger deal, and it really wasn't.
yeah.
Didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
why?
that felt like a loose thread, I guess, plot
Yeah.
wise. Like I don't know if maybe in a different draft of the movie that was going to have more of a point of development. Maybe I mean I don't know, but that was probably my biggest gripe with it. But all that to say, people freak out because they see the two dead bodies come down the elevator. Megan knows how to drive now, and I guess because she can get online and figure out how to operate vehicles, like whatever. That's not.
And
I don't have a
I will
problem
say
with that.
I also interpret it as this is an electric car. Like, was it even a Tesla? I don't even like. I assumed that her machine parts were communicating with those machine parts, and like she was just along for the ride.
So just wirelessly like guiding it, whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
that. I mean, if the killer Santa can drive, then so can she.
Did the killer Santa drive? I don't. Did it? He might have. I guess he did. He drove the
Yes, he
ambulance.
drove
He
that
drove the
ambulance.
ambulance. That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
you're right. Yeah, totally. So she goes all the way back to Gemma and Katie's house, and at this point, I think Gemma thinks, okay, everything's taken care of, and then
Yeah.
Megan is sitting there playing the piano in the dark, super, trying to build like the creepiness of the scene.
Yeah.
Katie hears what's going on, and there's this whole kind of tense exchange where the doll has
Yeah.
basically got Gemma subdued, but Katie can't really see what's going on. And there's kind of this back and forth conversation. And I thought that the way that sort of escalated quickly worked well because at that
Yeah.
point, I mean, we're like an hour and I don't know, maybe 30 minutes into the movie at that point, and it never felt like it was drawn out to me or overly long. But I
No.
felt like it could have gotten there had they sort of, like you were saying earlier, like especially when you get into that final kind of climactic battle sequence or fight sequence, if it had just gone on. But it kind of comes full circle, and I did sort of anticipate that was it Bruce, that robot that Gemma had been
Oh
working on
yeah,
at
the
that point,
moment they
like
unveiled Bruce and she
yeah.
showed Katie, this is his brain. This is where everything is. I was like, well, I know how Megan's gonna die. Cool.
Yeah. It's like
Awesome. Great.
they spent way too many production dollars on making that thing look cool to not use it at some
Oh
later
yeah.
point
Oh
in the
yes.
movie. So basically this fight kind of goes on. They use Bruce, which has sort of a pair of control gloves to pick up Megan and rip
Yeah.
her in half. But of course she's not dead quite yet. And eventually
Nope.
they stab Megan in the head with a screwdriver and I guess kill her CPU, and that's it. We think until the final frame of the movie, which shows that I guess their version of Alexa maybe has an
Yeah.
uploaded version of Megan sort of in it or
And I
something.
liked that. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of cool. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah. I was
I
totally
don't
fine with
think
that.
there's a sequel. I don't want there to be a sequel. But I always like movies that end on like, this isn't done yet.
Right. And I will say I did see a funny tweet not long after this came out. You know, again, not having seen the movie at all yet, just basically saying when they get to the third movie, they're totally screwed with the title because they've already used three in the Vegas thing. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but um, so anyway, I guess all of that to say, this is a movie that I feel like doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it takes that kind of killer robot formula and uses it to provide a little bit of societal commentary. Now, you know, I think
Yeah.
I'll say this, like as a parent, there are parts of this that hit a little bit harder with me because like the screen
Yes.
time thing is
Yeah.
like sometimes you just need to be left alone. Like there's no other way to
Yes.
say it. Like you just need to be able to think, to get some stuff done around the house, and like
Well,
yes, go watch
and
your
like
iPad.
when she's having that freak out with the psychologist about, and because they won't let her see Megan, I'm like, oh my God, that is literally my son when I turn off the TV. Like it's a total freak out. And so they're right. Like that's what happens. And so we have to be cautious and wary about all that. But I also am like, screens are everywhere. I'm not gonna not let my kid look at a screen or use a screen like
Yeah. Now,
what
I agree. Like the freak out
yeah.
thing, like my youngest, that is totally him. Like if we say, buddy, it's time to go to bed, you got to stop playing Terraria or whatever game he's playing these days. Like it is like meltdown city, which,
Yes.
you know, like, and it's one of those things where, yes, like we probably should limit the screen time a little bit more, but at the same time, for like the sanity of everybody in the house,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't know what the alternative is. Like I don't know, but anyway,
Yeah.
so there's a point there, and I will say from a plot writing perspective, I did find it kind of funny that like her two colleagues, or at least one of the colleagues, was like, "Do you not see kind of the potential issue with what we're doing here?"
Yeah.
Like, and she was just so, and I guess because she didn't have children, maybe she's just like, I don't, you know, you're thinking too
Yes.
much about this. Like this is going to be beneficial for humanity, all of that kind of stuff. But that's part of her character arc, I guess, that she comes around to realizing, like,
It
you
is.
know,
And that's what I think I like best about this movie is I like the writing was really good. There were really strong character arcs. You know, yes, the girl has her freakouts when they take away technology, but like she's not completely irrational when her aunt talks to her and quite honestly takes the advice from the therapist and actually starts to connect with the girl. Like things get better. Like, and that's why they have that moment at the end where is Katie gonna choose the robot or her aunt, the robot or her aunt? And you're like, I knew she wasn't choosing the robot. Like,
that would have been kind
and
of awesome if she had, though, right? Like if it had just
that
gone
would
that
have
route, like
been a very different movie. Yeah, yeah. And maybe there's an alternative ending where she does,
and
and
then
they
there's like
write off.
a whole series of sequels where Katie and Megan are just like taking over the world or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be cool. But all that to say, I like this movie.
Mhm.
Again, I don't think it's anything like super original, but I think it takes that formula and does it really well.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I hope they make a sequel to it. I mean, I don't know what that would
No,
look like. You don't think they
no.
will, or you don't want them to make
I
a
don't want
sequel?
them to. I think people make sequels to make money, and it's stupid. If you need a movie, come talk to me. I'll give you a script. Okay, like
People make movies to make money, Kim. They're
yeah,
gonna
but
make a
make
sequel,
something
right?
then, but make something better. Make something that's a new idea. Don't just do it to like it. I'm just salty because I have all these ideas that they could make, and instead they're going to make
You have
Megan too.
amazing screenplays. You're one of these days. I'm going to be sitting here reviewing one of your movies, and
That would
it's
be
going to be
the
awesome.
goal. Yes,
That would be the goal, right?
that's
I
the
think if they
goal.
make a sequel, they're going to call it Megans with an S because it'll be like Alien versus Aliens. There's going to be multiple Megans coming out of the funky factory. There were other
It'll be like a
prototypes,
scene from what was that movie with Will Smith, I, Robot? It'll be
right?
like a scene like that with just Megan's coming out of like these giant like storage trailers.
that would be that would be bad. Actually, that would not be a good movie, but
I
it
do
would still
think
be
I might be
entertaining.
Megan for Halloween this year. I have thought about that. I was
That
like,
would be
that'd be
cool.
fun. That'd be a
Yeah,
cool
that would be
costume.
cool. Um, that was so. Who would Matt be part of that? Would he be one of the characters in the movie, or
Maybe he'll be Katie.
he
Maybe
could be
I'll
the
have him
kid? He
dress
could have
up
like
as
a
a little
bloody
girl.
ear or something,
That's
like
true. He
walking
could
around.
be the little boy with the bloody ear. Aw,
That'd be kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Um, well,
We'll see.
so I don't know anything else about Megan. I mean, anything that you want to add that maybe we haven't talked about with this one?
No, I will say that I'm glad I saw it because I really did not plan to until you showed me how much it had been rated on, was it Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes.
Um,
Yeah,
and so I'm like, okay, and I think it's worth it. And that's why I think it's worth seeing. I think parents especially will relate and maybe feel guilty
yeah.
about some of the storyline, but it's all strong. It all makes sense. And there's some
This
good
is
death.
this is one of those movies that I feel like if it came on like TNT or USA, like I would sit and watch the whole thing. Like I would
I
totally
would
sit and
watch it
watch it.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like actually, I'll probably end up getting the Blu-ray because if I see a movie and I like it and I feel like I'll watch it more than once, like I'll totally spend 15, $20 to buy it and have it.
And I
And
feel like
yeah,
there are a lot of people I know with kids who are, well, maybe a little older than Jonah, but that are trying to introduce their kids to like horror movies in a way that's like what's not going to totally traumatize them yet. And I feel
yeah,
like this would be a good movie to do that with because there's blood and there's murder, but it's never like to the point of like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up
right.
or
I mean,
like,
this
and
is
there's
not
no,
like a buckets of gore type of
no,
movie. And
no.
that actually, that was going to be kind of my concluding question, I guess. And you sort of answered it. Like, do you think so? Our friend Jenny, if you're watching this,
Oh,
Jenny told me after we went and hung out, like all this the other night, that
yeah.
that her and Alyssa wanted to see this, and they're like, "Is it too scary?" And like, I don't know. Like, like if Jonah went to see it, I don't think he would be too scared by it. But I think it's kind of on the cusp, right? Like it's a borderline type of movie.
Yeah, it is. I think Alyssa could handle it. I do. Like I think if the kid is prepared, like yes, it's gonna get bloody for sure. There's gonna be some gore, but it's never, I think, gonna be the stuff of nightmares. I don't
No,
think.
like I mean, like I'm thinking about Jonah. He's really into Stranger Things, and like I wouldn't say this is any more violent than that at
Oh
all.
no. Oh
And
no.
actually, that's
Definitely
probably
not.
worse in some ways, depending on which
Yes.
episode you're talking about. So
Yeah. Oh, I think Stranger Things is far scarier and bloodier at times than Megan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Megan is totally worth checking out. I would
Mhm.
recommend it if you haven't seen it. And then I think I don't know. We were talking about maybe reviewing a Valentine's Day movie, which is like coming up kind of soon. I don't know,
Very soon, which I'm
My
all
Bloody
about the
Valentine or something.
movie Valentine with David Boreanaz that came out like, I don't know, early 2000s, but
Well, that's right.
that
You meant
too,
yeah. So I'm
yeah,
totally all right. So I'm gonna watch this movie. We'll
so
do a review on it and see.
it's got such good death scenes. Okay.
I've never seen. I think there are two of these, like the My Bloody Valentine movies. Like I don't think
I've
those are any
seen My
good.
Bloody Valentine. I own the reboot with Jensen Ackles because Jensen Ackles is my celebrity crush.
Okay,
So I do
nice.
have that. So I would also be willing to talk about that one as well because I've seen it more than once. It's
Okay,
not great. But it's
is
what
it
you expect
entertaining?
from My Bloody Valentine.
If it's entertaining, that's kind of my thing. Like it
Yeah.
could be like a bad movie, and as long as it's got some like modicum of entertainment value to it, like I'm okay with that for the
It would
most
be
part.
worth talking about. There's some stuff I would love to hear your opinion on. Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, we'll be back very soon. Thanks for watching, and definitely check out Megan.